Who in your life deserves an extra thank you this season? I would like to thank my parents for all the many sacrifices they make for us 5 kids. They do a lot for us, even as adults, and we're so thankful for them each and every single day.
I cried because, like I say, when you see somebody that is that special, I don't know how you couldn't.
Maple says she was a good neighbor and an excellent athlete, but most importantly, she was an amazing mother.
He was a lot of love going there, and she was, you could tell he had her heart. He really did. He was a special kid, and I hurt for him. She was just a beautiful person.
Like Maple, many of Christina's former colleagues, friends, and family are devastated by this loss. Fox 6 calls her death heartbreaking, releasing a statement saying in part, quote, "Christina was a valued member of our newsroom and a beloved colleague whose warmth, humor, and passion for sports left a lasting impact on everyone."
I mean, she was a true professional in every sense of the word. She loved covering sports in this state, whether it be high school, college, men's, women's, whatever it was. She was on our run to our first Final Four in 2019, and she was in Kansas City and in in Minneapolis. And hell, I think she was more excited to be there than we were. And you could just tell that based on just her daily interactions with us and with Coach, and man, she just took a lot of pride in what she did, and she did it at such a high level. Right now, just praying for her. That she can find some peace, and her family, her friends, coworkers, her beautiful son, who she loved so dearly. He's about to he's about to endure a journey that no one should have to go through. Tweet out a GoFundMe on on Twitter, so anyone that is able to, that can help him, please do. It's going to help pay for some of his educational stuff and opportunities moving forward. I hope her parents know that, if he ever, needs to come into our gym, he's always welcome. He's always got a ticket to the games. So, she made this world a better place, and she made us all better people.
On December 16th, 2025, a 3-year-old boy woke up in his Hoover, Alabama home to silence. His parents weren't making breakfast. The house felt still in a way it never had before. When his grandfather knocked on the door hours later, the little boy answered, innocent and unaware that he'd been alone with tragedy all morning. He took his grandfather's hand and led him through the house to where both his parents lay dead. That child will carry this morning with him for the rest of his life, even if he's too young to understand it now. If stories like Christina Chambers hit you differently because you see yourself in her, a woman trying to balance it all, doing everything right, and still ending up as a cautionary tale, then you need to hit that like button, subscribe to She's Alive, and turn on notifications. We can't let these stories fade into statistics. Women's lives matter beyond the headlines, and staying connected here means we keep demanding answers together. Let's talk about Christina for who she really was, not just as a victim. Born October 28, 1987, in Cullman, Alabama, she was the daughter of Tim and Mary Chambers, who'd built a life together spanning over 4 decades running their family business, Chambers Farm and Garden Supply. Christina grew up in that small-town southern environment where community meant everything, where people knew your name at the grocery store, where your accomplishments were celebrated like family wins. She had siblings, including her sister Maria, and from early on, Christina stood out, not because she tried to, but because she genuinely cared about people and it showed. At Cullman High School, Christina wasn't just participating in activities, she was excelling at everything she touched. Track, cross-country, soccer. She was that girl who made athletics look effortless while maintaining grades and already exploring broadcast journalism through the school's TV program. Her teacher Cindy Pass saw something special in her. A natural comfort on camera combined with authentic warmth that you can't fake. Christina wasn't performing for the camera, she was just being herself, and that authenticity became her signature. But here's what really defined Christina during those years. Running wasn't just a sport for her, It was her lifeline. While other teenagers were figuring out who they wanted to be, Christina found herself in those miles. Running gave her clarity, helped her process emotions, became the through line of her entire life. When she graduated in 2006 and earned a Division I scholarship to UAB for cross-country and track, it wasn't surprising to anyone who knew her. She was always going to find a way to keep running. At UAB, Christina studied mass communication while competing for 4 years. Her coach, Kurt Thomas, would later say he knew her for 17 years and she never changed. Unapologetically herself, big personality, loyalty that didn't quit. Even after graduating in 2009, Christina couldn't stay away from the UAB track program. She'd show up at meets just to cheer, then text Coach Thomas asking for the latest team shirt so she could represent while running. Think about that level of connection. She didn't need to stay involved, but she chose to because those relationships mattered to her. Her journalism career launched while she was still in college. WVTM in Birmingham took a chance on their intern and sent her solo to Tampa to cover Auburn at the Outback Bowl. That's a massive responsibility for someone still in school, but Christina delivered. From there, her career path took her through Columbus, Georgia at WLTZ, then Atlanta covering Auburn for Comcast Sports Southeast, a brief stint in Montgomery at WACA, before she landed back home in Birmingham at WBRC Fox 6 in November 2015. For 6 years, Christina became a fixture in Alabama sports broadcasting. Every Friday night, families across the state saw her on Sideline, bringing high school and college sports into their living rooms with genuine enthusiasm. She wasn't reading teleprompter scripts. She was telling stories about young athletes, shining light on small towns, celebrating communities. In a 2016 interview, she said one of her favorite parts of the job was putting Cullman on the map, highlighting athletes from her hometown. That wasn't publicity talking. That was Christina genuinely wanting to lift up the place that raised her. But here's where Christina's story takes an interesting turn that a lot of women can relate to. By 2021, Christina was at the peak of her broadcasting career. She had name recognition, respect in the industry, steady work doing what she loved. But she walked away from it. Not because she failed, not because she got pushed out. She chose to leave. She became the director of Alabaster City School's Broadcasting Academy at Thompson High School, teaching the next generation of journalists. How many of us have made that kind of pivot? Choosing purpose over prestige, impact over income, investing in young people instead of climbing higher on our own ladder? And Christina didn't just coast in that teaching role. Within 3 years, she was named Alabama Scholastic Press Association's Advisor of the Year in 2024. Her students won state championships. She mentored 2 Alabama Journalists of the Year. She turned Thompson's broadcast program into something kids were proud to be part of. Former students talked about how she stayed late to help them perfect their work, how she believed in them when they didn't believe in themselves. That's the kind of teacher who changes lives, and Christina was doing that while still freelancing for WBRC, running marathons, attending Mass every Sunday, and raising Constantine. Let's talk about her marriage, because this is where things get complicated. Christina married Johnny Rhymes Jr. in August 2021 at Sacred Heart of Jesus Church in Cullman, the same church where she'd hit every major spiritual milestone growing up. They'd already been living together in Hoover for a few years at that point, and seemed happy according to their neighbor Charles Maple. But after Constantine was born, Maple noticed something shift. He said things didn't seem right between them anymore, though he didn't elaborate. That vague observation haunts this whole story, because what does not right mean? Arguments? Distance? Something darker? Johnny was 41, worked as an analyst until 2022, and lived an intensely private life. No social media presence, no interviews, nothing public. He was Christina's opposite in that way. She shared her faith journey, her running accomplishments, her teaching wins, while he stayed invisible. You have to wonder how that dynamic played out at home. Was he uncomfortable with her visibility? Did her success create tension? Or were there completely different issues we'll never know about? By 2025, Christina had transitioned again, this time to corporate communications at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Alabama, but she couldn't fully let go of broadcasting. She kept doing sideline reporting, kept showing up for the work she loved. She ran the Rome Marathon, walked through all the holy doors in Rome during the year of Jubilee, trained for Boston 2026, and maintained her dawn running routine with her Birmingham group. Her last public appearance was December 6th at Protective Stadium, 10 days before her death, where a colleague remembers her talking excitedly about Constantine and wanting to get home to him. Then December 16th arrived. The couple missed a church event, which concerned Johnny's father enough to check on them around 9 that morning. Constantine answered the door and led his grandfather inside to where both parents lay dead from gunshot wounds. Police arrived at 9:03 a.m. The coroner determined they died sometime between 6:15 a.m. and 9:03 a.m., meaning Constantine was in that house for hours, possibly awake, possibly asleep, while his parents were gone. Hoover police classified it as domestic assault and an apparent murder-suicide with no public threat. They haven't released who the shooter was, what weapon was used, or the sequence of events. There's no trial coming, no courtroom testimony, no public airing of evidence because the perpetrator is deceased. For those of us wanting to understand what happened, that lack of information feels incomplete, but it's how these cases end when both people are gone. Christina's funeral happened December 23rd, 5 days before Christmas, at the church that held her entire faith story. Her parents buried their daughter. Her siblings lost their sister. Constantine lost both parents in one morning, and will grow up knowing this is how his story began. The Alabama community established a GoFundMe for his education and rallied around him. But money doesn't replace what he lost. Here's what we need to sit with. Christina did everything society tells women to do. She was educated, successful, faithful, involved in her community, a dedicated mother. She had hundreds of people who loved her, colleagues, students, friends, church family. And none of them saw this coming. Does that mean there were no signs? Or does it mean the signs were hidden behind closed doors where even the most accomplished, seemingly put-together women can be suffering in silence? Domestic violence doesn't care about your resume, your faith, your Instagram feed, or how many people think you have it all figured out. It happens to women who look like they're thriving. And that's what makes Christina's story so terrifying for those of us watching from the outside. If it happened to her, it could happen to anyone. What do we do with that information? How do we create spaces where women feel safe enough to say things aren't okay at home, even when their public life looks perfect? And here's the question that keeps me up at night. How many women are living right now in situations that look fine from the outside but feel dangerous on the inside, and they don't know how to ask for help without destroying the life they've built? Share this video if Christina's story resonates with you, or if you know someone who needs to hear that they're not alone. Comment your thoughts on how we better support women in struggling relationships without judgment. Subscribe to She's Alive if you're not already part of this community, because we're here to tell women's stories with the depth and respect they deserve, not just turn them into clickbait. Check out our other videos where we dive into cases that demand our attention. Constantine is growing up without his mother, and the best way we honor Christina is by refusing to let her story be just another headline. Let's keep this conversation going.